My name is Greg Mengarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, and your host for Prescott Today. Today we have two guests on the show, Joe Baynes, who's our Recreation Services Director, and Chris Hosking, who is our Trails and Parklands Planner for the City of Prescott. We're on location at Lower Goldwater Lake, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Mayor Greg Mengarelli, and I'm here with our first guest, Chris Hosking, who's the City of Prescott Trails and Parkland Planner. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been at the city, and kind of what you do for the city.
So I've been got here in July of 06 to Prescott, and then started working in August of 06 for the city. And so what is that, 12 coming on 13 years. And so when I first started here, I was, maintenance of trails. We had about 25 miles of trail. And then what I do now is plan and build and maintain trails. And so now we just went over 100.
Yeah, that's awesome. 100 miles just in the City of Prescott.
On the city managed trails. So we have, we have trails on city land. Some of it's in the city and some of it's in the county. And then we have easements across state trust land.
Okay.
We have.
And the network, Chris, in maybe the Prescott Basin, this region, we have about 500 miles?
It's coming on 500 miles with the Forest Service. And that's not just non-motorized trails, that's motorized trails too.
So you start out specialized with trails, you're kind of moving more into some parkland development, and we're here at Lower Goldwater. You've had a hand in some of the planning down here?
A little bit, my main thing is going to be how we connect this to our trail system and connect to the Forest Service trail system. So we'll have a loop around this lake, and we'll have connections to the Forest Service trails and also connections to the upper Goldwater area.
Okay. So let's talk outside of Lower Goldwater and the Goldwater Lake Basin here. What are some other trails happening, particularly in the Granite Dells area right now, or some things that you've done recently?
Well, we're going to be getting going on the COSA Trail, which was a partnership with the COSA, the Institute, and we're going to be building a trail from our trails over to, through the Willow Dells and down to Willow Creek and across it. So. That's one thing that we're going to be working on. It's only about 0.8 of a mile, but it's a beautiful area, really green, and lots of water. And then we just got finished with the storm trails. We were out last time. We were looking at the Easter Island trails, and that's one particular trail. But the whole area is about we got 6 miles of trail now in that 160 acres, and it's been a big hit. A lot of people are going out there. Just magnificent views. One particular trail, the Captain's Trail, gets you way up high above the lake, and you see the Dells in its entirety. And then if you go all the way to the back, we've got kind of a bedrock city Flintstones theme with our names back there, having some fun with it. And we have one trail called Yabba Dabba View. And you get way up there, and you're into the big boulders right at the base of Glassford Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Easter Island Trail system is in the Dells area. That's on the 160 acres that the city purchased well over a year ago. And it's off the Peavine Trail.
Yeah, and Easter Island is just one of the trails. So Easter Island is a trail that has the big, like, they look like the Easter Island monuments, and just these big towers of granite. And so that's why I named it that. But the whole trail system is the storm trails.
Okay.
And that's just one of them. But we have probably 15 different trails in there.
Okay.
And they're all signed, and they've all got the white dots on the rock so you can get out there. We also have it, on our new map that just came out, new trails map. And you can also go onto PrescottTrails.com and figure out, how to get it on your phone.
Okay.
And so now your phone becomes a GPS, and you'll always find your way.
Sure. So if I park at the Sundog parking lot there, Sundog
Ranch Road.
Sundog Ranch Road parking lot, and head north on Peavine.
Yep.
And I've done this on my bike, actually, and taken the kids on a bike on the Peavine up to where the storm trails kind of take off to my right.
Yes, yeah, it's a little over a mile, and then you get to the Captain's Trail. Just as you get into the rocks, the Captain Trail takes off, and that's only if you just go out there and then do the Captain's Loop, come back down Easter Island, back down, and then head back. You're probably into it for 3.5 miles total.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of trails. You mentioned when we started that there was like 20 some miles of trails when you got here back in 06.
Yep.
And now, you've added about 80 some miles just in the city, as well as some trails, of course, out in the forest. Tell me, who's helping you do all this work? You're not doing it by yourself.
No, I have an army of volunteers called the Over the Hill Gang, and they really, they're a bunch of retirees mainly, and we go out every Monday and Friday, and we work on trails. So we have probably 70 or 80 that are active that come out, and we get a tremendous amount of work out of them. And probably, I'm guessing about 8,000 hours of volunteer time per year. So that's like 4 full-time staff.
Okay.
And they come out at 20, 30 at a time, and we built all those trails with those guys, and with we got some machines as well, which definitely help and do most of the hard work. But this time of year, I'm really working on maintenance. We had a pretty heavy winter, lots of snow, lots of rain, so there's some issues that we have to deal with, erosion issues. And right now we got brushing, everything's starting to grow and everything's kind of closing in. So we're maintaining trails. So we've probably maintained 20 miles of trail in the last 3 months. And then we'll keep going for a while. And then we've got the new construction, like I said, on the Acosta Trail. And then we'll probably head into the forest and help on some of their projects too.
Well, I'm always amazed, Chris, when I go visit you building trails and watch the Over the Hill Gang. I know they're older folks, hence the name, but I'm always amazed at the amount of work they get done and the kind of rocks they're moving. It's absolutely extraordinary without any machinery other than just some rock bars and shovels and picks and axes and all that kind of stuff. But amazing work that they do, and we're deeply grateful for their work in our city. So I know that you love designing trails. I know that you're an avid mountain biker. Mm-hmm. Besides mountain biking, what's your favorite outdoor activity?
Well, I like to go kayaking on the lakes around here. I like to go for walks. I got a dirt bike, so I like to go out dirt biking. I had a sailboat till recently. I like to go sailing on the lakes. But mainly mountain biking, like you said. That's if I've got some time, I want to try and get out and just get away from it all and climb up a hill and just sit, and have some peace and quiet. Or just go out with a bunch of guys. We have a guys ride with the Prescott Mountain Bike Alliance, and we go out every Thursday night and just have some camaraderie and hang out together and go, really experience all that we have in Prescott, all the different types of trails. So we try and mix it up, go all over the city.
Well, and that's just it, Chris, is there's so many different outdoor opportunities in Prescott, and you listed most of them right there with all the lakes and all the trails and all the open space that we have and the great viewscapes that we have. We live in a beautiful place with a lot of opportunities for recreation.
We're blessed. We got lots going on here, and we keep building on it. And a lot of these new developments coming in are wanting trails. Trails are what people want, so we're going to give it to them, and have connectivity to other neighborhoods, and people can go for a long hike or a short hike right out of their door.
Well, I want to thank you for your work in the city, designing trails and parklands, and so glad that you've been in the city for these past 12 years, and for another 12. Great. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks.
Welcome back, everybody. Next up on the show is Director of Recreation Services, Joe Baynes. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
So again, we're here at Lower Goldwater Lake, and I thought it'd be interesting to get into the history. Before we do that, though, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been here with the city and lived in the city, and what your role is with the city.
Absolutely. I've been here for 35 years, and I've been working for the city for 8, but I feel blessed every morning when I wake up, not only to live in this community, but to be, in a part that can help improve people's quality of life. So, great.
Yeah, you have a great job. I'm kind of jealous, actually. So, Joe, with Goldwater Lake, obviously there's got to be something to that name. So give us just a little history about how this, particularly the Lower Goldwater Lake, came about.
Well, as the city of Prescott grew in the 1800s, late 1800s and early 1900s, they were constantly working for drinking water supplies to supply the population as it grew. So originally, people have heard about stories about the wells on the courthouse plaza. That was part of the drinking water supply. In the 1870s, they dammed up Miller Creek, and that was a source of drinking water for a period of time. And then in the late 1800s, they really started thinking about how can we capture enough water to, supply the ever-growing population. So they started with a series of reservoirs, which Goldwater Lake is one of. It started up at Hosking Lake, and then as they captured the water and it came down, at the end of the lower lake where we're standing today, there was a water treatment facility that was built, and they treated the water, put it into a pipe, and piped it to the water tank that's on Senator Highway that's no longer currently being used. But that worked quite well for a period of time until we went up to Chino, and eventually that's where the majority of our water comes from today. At the time, Morris Goldwater was the mayor. In fact, I think Morris Goldwater was the mayor for 16 years off and on, so a great part of our early history included Morris Goldwater, who would have been Barry Goldwater's great uncle, was a big part of our city, and securing water was really important. So this is kind of how this all evolved.
So it was actually initially a source of drinking water for the city. Joe, people don't get to Lower Goldwater Lake. When we're talking about Goldwater Lake, they're thinking upper Goldwater Lake, where they go and fish and kayak and picnic and all those things up there. So Lower Goldwater Lake hasn't been used for recreation ever. Is that right?
That's right. It hasn't been. It was always a drinking water source of drinking water, a reservoir. A few years ago, the big problem with opening this lower lake to the public really had to do with that water treatment facility that I referred to, and some dangers and liabilities associated with that. Big concrete pits and fall, areas where people could fall. So a few years ago, we got together with Public Works Director now, Craig Dotseth, and came up with a plan where we were able to kind of combine a job that the city of Prescott was doing, and they needed to bring some fill dirt out, and we were able to do some demolition and some filling to create the liability, negate the liability that we had associated with that. So that now brings us to where we're at, where we're in the planning process of opening this up to the public, the lower lake. So, yeah, Mary, you're exactly right. Most people think of Goldwater in the upper lake, but we have a lake about half the size of the upper lake down here. It's beautiful, as you can see, and we're really excited about opening it up to the public. They've owned it for a long time, and it's due time that we get to improve our quality of life by opening up this lower lake.
Yeah, no, that's great, Joe. I appreciate you doing that because it is beautiful down here, and I think people are going to love it down here. Tell us a little bit about specifically what you're planning here at the Lower Goldwater Lake and kind of maybe your expectation of when it might be open.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking at it in a couple phases. One of the things that I'm very conscious of is I want to have a light hand on the land. We have about an 8 to 10 acre lake here, and we don't want to just inundate it with a lot of use and compromise the resource. So we're going to start with a day use ramada. This is a very popular area for weddings. In fact, the 3 ramadas that we have up at the upper lake are already reserved for the full year. So people are really out ahead of this. This will offer another opportunity for weddings, family get-togethers, reunions, you name it, down here in a beautiful setting. We'll do some restrooms, a fishing trail that will go around the lake. We have a partnership with Game and Fish, Arizona Game and Fish, and they'll stock and manage the fishery. We expect this to be a trophy kind of a lake, so we'll be doing some improvements to the stocking and some day use areas, of course, down here, and additional parking, which is really important to us. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, any given weekend, we park the upper lake out all the way up to Senator Highway. So we're hoping to create a little more capacity and let folks from here and visitors enjoy this 6,000-foot elevation ponderosa pine paradise.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And you were telling me earlier that you've had to close down Upper Goldwater Lake because you were at capacity. So really, this will open up more opportunity for more people to be up in here, where you've really had tremendous demand on the other lake.
Exactly. We'll incorporate, as part of this project, some more parking in the upper lake. So we'll be able to almost double that. And that'll allow for the public to enjoy it all the more.
Yeah, great. So good fishing up here. A lot of ways to recreate, getting out on the water, hiking, picnicking, etc. But I was hearing you talk about a record fish that was caught in Upper Goldwater.
Yeah, last year we had it's actually a national record Gila trout. Gila trout is a native trout to Arizona and New Mexico, so that it's not like it's a national record, but really there's only a couple states in the Southwest that have it as a native fish. Game and Fish started stocking it a couple of years ago in the Upper Lake, and they've thrived. State record was caught last year, a little over 5 pounds. We expect that there's a state record fish in there that hasn't been caught yet. In addition to that, there was a state record red-eared sunfish that was caught in the mid-90s. Also, there was a channel catfish that was caught a couple years ago. It was 23 pounds. Not a state record, but when you see the size of that thing, it's a big, big fish. So some great fishing opportunities, great partnership with Arizona Game and Fish to stock and make these lakes something that the public can enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit from Upper and Lower Goldwater Lake, and let's talk about our open space acquisitions, and maybe just give us an overview of all of our open space acreage, and then specifically in the Dells, what we own in that area, up to this point.
Sure, Mayor. We have a little over 3,000 acres of open space that includes Pioneer Park, which is a very highly visited area as well. So a little over 3,000 acres. To give you some comparison, that's a little more than what Flagstaff has. And looking around in other areas in the Southwest, we certainly rank high in that. And then throw in the 1.5 million acres or whatever it is of Prescott National Forest, we've got some great outdoor recreation opportunities. In the Dells alone, we have about 1,900 acres of open space. We continue to work on some more open space acquisitions in there, as well as through development agreements, securing some more public open space. So using those tools, we expect that portfolio will grow. And we notice, me as a recreation professional, notice that the big growth really is in high school mountain biking, and the greatest age demographic is hiking from 3 years old to 90 years old. So those are things that we look at. Do we have enough resources, or do we want to continue to build? We see our trail visits by our trail counters going up about 8 to 10% a year. Even though we're building more trail, that tells us that there's still a demand.
Well, I think the statement that we have 3,000 acres of open space here in the city really says a lot to our past city councils and leadership in making sure that we acquire those acreages to ensure that we have plenty of open space here in the city. And it's good to hear that we're continuing to work, particularly in the Dells, to acquire more of that private property there in the Dells to ensure that we preserve all the acreage there that needs to be preserved. I know that with the one development that's looking to annex into the city council is being very diligent, as well as the city manager, and with your help, to make sure that we preserve those rocks that need to be preserved in there in the Dells.
And open space acquisition is strategic. It's not really buying a piece of property so that nobody builds a house on it. It's more about strategy and how does it promote outdoor recreation. And of course, we live on sales tax. That's how we provide city services, police, fire, sanitation, water, sewer. So that outdoor recreation visitation is a really important part of our sales tax collection that help make our community a great place to live.
Yeah, no, it's important, and it's important to me that we ensure that we preserve the space that needs to be preserved out there in the Dells. So let's talk more about kind of the position that Prescott is in the state, Joe. Tell us a little bit about what is unique about our recreational opportunities here in the state compared to maybe some other cities, municipalities around the state. Why are people attracted to Prescott?
Well, number one, our climate. We have 4 mild seasons, which is unusual. You can drive 80 miles either way, and you don't have that. That's number one, probably. And number two is that diversity in topography that we have. We're standing at 6,000 foot elevation, ponderosa pine. We can go up to Mount Union, which is about 7,600 feet. Ponderosa pine again, but quite a bit of elevation change. And we get down into the oak junipers. You get down into the riparian areas and the granite dells. It's just a great diversity in topography, and it's really evidenced by the circle trail. If you take the circle trail, the 54-mile plus circle trail, you'll see every kind of different vegetation and elevation change in that. So our diversity in topography and our climate are the two main things.
No, that's really good. I love the fact that we have so many miles of trails, and the lakes give us so many opportunities that really make us unique as well. So, Joe, I asked Chris this question. You know, you love getting outside. What's your favorite outdoor activity, recreational activity?
Well, one of the reasons I think I make a good parks and recreation director is if you look in the back of my vehicle, you'll see golf clubs, you'll see frisbee for frisbee golf. You might see a kayak from time to time. Played softball for many, many years here. Just gave that up a couple of years ago. All those things, golf. We're going to play kickball this year at Ken Lindley Field on Friday nights. Great activity downtown. So just all of it. It's been great living here and getting out and enjoying it. And really, it's a lifestyle, and I embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important that we continue to have those outdoor activities, particularly for the younger generations coming up that many times don't have those opportunities to get outside. And that's why we're fortunate to have the mild seasons and get folks outside in the outdoors. So, well, Joe, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate all you do for the city of Prescott, and particularly, this recent development of opening up Lower Goldwater Lake is going to be a true asset for our city and a great addition to our portfolio. So thanks for all your work in the city. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. Well, thanks to Joe and Chris for being on the show today. That's all we have for today. You can tune in to Prescott Today online or Channel 64. This is Mayor Mengarelli. Thanks so much for being with us.